Well, hello. Welcome to art class. Today we're going to be making this Valentine heart. There's more to it than what you see. This is the start that we're going to talk about and what you'll be doing today. So for this project, you're going to need construction paper and preferably either pink, red, or purple papers, and 2 of those. You could do 2 different colors or whatever you choose. And you're also going to need white paper to make your own painted paper, or you can use painted paper that you've already made. And it can just be something that doesn't have anything to do with Valentine's or this particular project, but that you just have already painted. And it doesn't have to be solid colors like this. It could be colors that are blotched and kind of mixed up, like what you see on here. So if you don't have painted paper that you want to use for this, then take white paper and just take watercolors and just do a little, some kind of pattern. Or it doesn't even have to be a pattern. It can just be all kinds of colors that you want to paint. And while I'm talking, you could go ahead and start on that if you would like. There's a deer running across my field right now, and my eye was taken to the scene out there. But while you're painting your painted paper, which isn't a picture of anything, remember it's just colors that you like in whatever way you want to do it, we're going to be using a technique that you may or may not be familiar with, but it's really super simple. And all it requires is your sheet of construction paper. Sometimes it's fun to use the really big construction paper, the 12 by 18, but if you have the regular size, which I believe is 9 by 12 inches, that will work too. So just know that either size is fine, and whatever colors you like. We tend to think of the red, pink, or purple, but if you have another color in mind and want to use that color instead, blue or green or whatever, that is fine. So the first thing we're going to do is, I think I'm going to start with pink. We are going to hold our paper this way, which is horizontal. And you're going to take the 2 ends and bring them together and fold it book style. You want to make sure your edges match up evenly and that there's no overlap. They just come together neatly. Okay, once your edges are nice and neat, hold them. Just pinch them together like that. And the other side will be where you're going to crease your paper. Okay, so you're going to crease it. And then I'm going to turn the camera to my workspace so that you can see more of what I'm doing. So you're going to open it. Excuse me, you're not going to open it. You're going to leave it closed, and you're going to take any drawing tool that you have in whatever color you would like. It doesn't really matter what color you use for this. And we are going to put maybe 2 fingers width across the top on the creased side. So not the open side, but see, I'm on the opposite of the open side, on the creased side. And I would like for you to make a dot just under your fingers. Okay, you can move your fingers away if it helps. Just know that you're leaving a little space at the top. Okay, and you're going to put your dot on the crease side. So this is the shut side, okay? All right. Now, this is where we're going to draw 1/2 of our picture that we're making. So watch first so you can get the idea. So you're going to start where your dot is. I feel like my crayon might break. You have to be careful with the skinny crayons. They sometimes break if you put pressure. So I'm going to start at my dot, and I'm not going to touch the top of my paper. So I'm going to come just below the top of my paper with a curve, and I'm going to aim it toward the middle or a little bit farther. So there's my curve, and I came all the way toward the middle or a little bit farther, and I'm going to come out a little bit, then I'm going to come in back toward my crease, except I'm aiming for the bottom corner of my paper. Okay, so if you have this much of a curve, you're going to make sure you're aiming for the bottom corner, the one that's on the same side as your crease. Okay, so the dot and the bottom of your curved line that you drew will be on the crease. Okay, so you have that shape, which is going to be half of your heart. You do need scissors, which I think I forgot to say earlier, and you do need some sort of glue because I got to talking and forgot to say that. So we're going to start on the dot that we just made. We're still on the creased side, the folded up side, not the open side, okay? We're on the crease side. We're going to cut on the line that we just drew, and you probably have already guessed that this is half a heart, and that's why we're leaving it folded while we cut. And we're just cutting on that line. So if you've ever done this before, this is super easy peasy, but if you haven't ever done it before, it's still super easy peasy. So now you have this shape, and I'll give you a moment to finish cutting yours out. Very good. So you know what to do next is you're going to open it up, and you have a perfect heart that is symmetrical. So what is symmetry? That's right. It means that it's the same on both sides. So we have a symmetrical heart, and you can see your crease down the middle. You can leave it open for now. And the reason the crease down the middle is going to be helpful is because it's going to help us line everything up that we're going to paste onto here. Okay, I like to keep my scrap paper, but you can just set that aside and do whatever you would like with that for now. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add some painted paper. So if you already have painted paper, then, and it's dry, okay, it has to be dry, then you're going to do this together with me now. If you're painting, if you already, if you had to paint your paper today, then you're going to pause, let it dry before you do the next step. Another option is you could take another color paper for your second layer to do this next step. So if you want to take another color that you think would look good with this one, we're going to be making a little bit smaller heart with it. I'm going to use painted paper for this step, but like I said, you could use the solid color if you would like. So I'd like for you to fold this paper in half the same way. You can tell I tore this out of a sketchbook. And this could be, like I said, any painted paper that you want to cut up, okay? Now, I'm going to do the same steps where the fold is. I'm putting a dot about, 2 finger widths from the top, and I'm putting a dot on the side that has the crease or the fold. Okay, so I'm going to turn your attention to my paper. And again, I am going to go toward the top, but don't touch the top. Come all the way toward the middle. You won't be able to see my mark as well because I'm on painted paper. And then I'm going to curve it out, but I'm going to aim it to the bottom corner. Aim toward the bottom corner. So there is my curve. Okay, and I have, see there's paint on the other side too and a little bit of white. So I'm going to tell you what to do next if you have too much white. So I'm cutting again exactly like we did with the first heart, leaving my paper folded, and I'm staying on the line, and I'm taking my time because I want to make sure I do a good job cutting this out. Okay, and now I am going to open it up, and I have, as you can see, half the painted paper and half not, but this one, the full thing was painted. And we're gonna get creative here, okay? All right, so I'm gonna put this heart on top of the bottom one. Well, what if I wanted more of my bottom color to show? Well, if that's the case, you could just simply close this up and cut around and make it a little bit smaller. Just cut, you know, the same, here I'll show you. Just cut the same shape, but trim off a little bit without distorting your heart shape. So you're gonna stay in line with what you had cut earlier. Okay, so now I've made my heart the size that I really want it, and I am going to layer it on top of the first heart, okay? And I am gonna take my glue, and as I tell my students, I put it down like this on its flat side so the cap doesn't get lost, it doesn't roll away. Okay, so I am simply going to put glue all over the back of my paper heart. You want to get it all the way out to the edges as best as you can. So when I'm doing that, I like to kind of tilt my glue so that it can run out to the edges without getting glue all over my table surface. Okay, so we are gluing, glue the back of the heart. And if you used thick paper, you have to get the whole thing really covered in glue, because thicker paper is going to want to pull apart. The thinner paper will stick more easily, but you have to make sure the thin paper doesn't wrinkle. That's the trick to the thin paper, because it will want to wrinkle worse than the thick paper. My finger gets a little sticky on that last little bit, but I'm not too worried. And then I'm just going to make sure I've centered it. You can look at your center creases and line them up, and then get it just centered. And if you don't have it centered and you've already let the glue touch, just slide it over gently. That's what I did. And get it centered at the top and the bottom, so you can see the little, you know, V shape. They should be lined up, and the little tips at the bottom should be lined up. And when you know everything's lined up, then you're just gonna massage the paper down using, I'm putting my fist down on the side so I'm not getting glue from my fingers on the top of my artwork. And if you want to, you can you could even turn it over and massage the paper a little bit more. You don't want glue everywhere, so if you have sticky fingers, make sure you're not, you know, sticking your fingers on the clean side. Okay, and then always recap your glue so it doesn't start to dry out on you. So far we have this. Okay, we're gonna do another heart. So you can see again on this one, I did 3 hearts, and this one's not completely finished, so keep that in mind. So this time I'm gonna go to purple, and you can choose any color you would like, any color you would like. We're gonna fold it in half. Same process. Okay. Excuse me. This time we're going to make a smaller heart. And we could have just used smaller paper. Got a tickle. And of course, use a different color to draw your dot so that it will show up. And this time I'm going to come down a full 4 fingers width before I draw my dot, so that, I need to use a different color that shows up better. Okay, and then this time we're gonna not go all the way to the top. We're gonna make sure we're making a little bit smaller heart. And so make it a tiny bit thinner, and then come all the way down to your bottom corner again. Okay, and we're gonna cut it out. And remember, we're making this one smaller, so keep that in mind. So you might even wanna cut slightly inside of the line that you drew. just to make sure this heart's gonna be a little bit smaller and slightly more, you know, in toward the bottom. Okay, and then check it and see. Okay, so this one's gonna cover up most of my beautiful painted paper, so I'm gonna make this one a good bit smaller. And I'm gonna come back. This just lets you see, you know, you don't have to be perfect all the time. So I'm gonna cut off a good bit of that because I want a much smaller heart. Okay, could have drawn it smaller to begin with. And then this time I'm gonna see if I like the way that looks. You may not have known to leave it white at the bottom, and that's fine. Okay, so I'm gonna just place this one a little bit lower. You could center it if that makes you happier. I'm just gonna bring mine down a little bit from the center. And I'm going to put glue. You decide what's gonna be the back. Yeah, I wanna put glue on the side with the fold, the crease that's sticking out a little bit. If that makes sense. If not, just decide what the back is and put the glue on the one side, letting that be the back of your heart. And go ahead and coat it. This construction paper holds glue pretty well. It will really stick, so be careful not to rip it. And be careful not to get going too fast and wrinkle it real bad. Once you have that coated, then you're going to place it with the crease centered. So remember how we did that? Get your crease centered and your tip centered on the center crease so that it continues to stay nice and symmetrical and even and not crooked. Okay, now you know if you pull it after it's already stuck down, it's gonna wanna rip, so you gotta be real careful about that. And I know that from experience, that's why I tell you. All right, again, use your non-sticky parts of your hand like I'm doing if you need to, and just massage it from the back so that everything is adhering well. Okay, so now we have the 3 hearts all put together. Very good. Okay, so what I want you to be thinking about is some ways to create an interesting border, an interesting edge. And so a couple of different ways that you can do that is you can take some more of your painted paper or some of your scraps, which might also be painted paper. And we're gonna do something that is similar to making a mosaic. So a mosaic, if you've ever heard of mosaic tiles, they're little small pieces that come together into one picture, but they're in pieces. So you can make triangles, you can make parallelograms, or squares, or whatever suits your fancy. And the key is to have fun with it, remember? And you're not trying to make yours just like mine or anybody else's. So look at your pieces and your colors that you have to work with, especially, you know, if you have beautiful painted paper. Even the parts that I cut off from the heart as like what could have been thought of as a mistake, I see some beautiful colors that I might want to use in that. So I'm just gonna cut some little strips also. And they can all be about, you know, the size of from your knuckle of your thumb up, or, you know, whatever you like. So like these pieces would be too big because they're as big as my entire thumb. So I might cut those in half, or even again, to see what I mean by the size of your knuckle up to the top of your thumb. Okay, so I'm going to keep cutting out pieces. Do any of you have mosaic tiles in your home, or maybe in another place that you go on a regular basis? For example, my church has some stained glass that has some mosaic in it. Okay, so I have some pieces that I've cut, and I like my selections. So then I'm just gonna lay them on my heart on the edges, and I'm gonna see what I like for a border. So you might still be cutting. Okay, you may not have enough colors to do every other one a different color, but you can see what kind of pattern you would like. Okay, and you might want to move some things around and see if you like something better. Kind of like a puzzle almost. You may not want to go all the way into the center with this. And I'm making mine stick up just to see if I like it like that. That's up to you. It doesn't have to stick up this much. What I mean by stick up is it's coming off the edge. So see how I'm kind of creating a pattern? That's what I want you to try to create, is some kind of pattern that you like, but it does not need to be the same as mine. You may have used different shapes. You know, be creative. And someone is going to ask if you can put your pieces in the center, and the answer is yes, you can. I would love for you to put some in the center to make your mosaic beautiful heart. And you're probably wondering why I'm not gluing these down. It's because I like to see how it's going to look first before I commit or say for sure that I like it. So I'm liking the triangles in the center, or sort of like triangles in the center. Some are more like parallelograms. And you know, if you've got one side painted but not the other side, maybe you could try flipping a few and see if you like different color combinations better than others. All right, so I'm really liking the look of my heart mosaic. So at this point, I can decide if I like it or not. And if I like it, I can start gluing things down. And then I would continue going around the edge as well. So I worked from the edge to the center, back to the edge. If you've got a pattern going, that's wonderful. If you're doing it just kind of, you know, going with the flow, That's okay.